As a sort of review sa ating mga pinapag-aralan dito, ay napag-aralan natin dito na bakit tayo nagbibigay. Number one, to support the ministers of the gospel. Yan yung isa sa mga reason bakit tayo nagbibigay sa gawain ng Panginoon, para mabigyan ng support ang mga lingkod ng Panginoon. Of course, dito sa Thailand, hindi gaano tayong gumagawa niyan kasi ang mga pastors dito ay may mga trabaho. But traditionally speaking, sa Pilipinas, we give because para ma-provide ang mga needs ng mga lingkod ng Panginoon. And that is biblical in 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and in 2 Timothy 5:17. Let me read 2 Timothy 5:17 kasi yung 1 Corinthians 9 kasi mahaba eh. So ito lang ang 1 Timothy 5:17. Anong sabi ng Bible sa atin? Elders who do their work well should be respected and paid well. That is very clear in the Bible. Especially those who work hard at both preaching and teaching. So we have biblical reference to that. Sa King James Version, give them double honor. Double honor. Why double honor? Because they will also be given double judgment. Double honor, double judgment. Okay? Sa mga lingkod ng Panginoon. So kung binibigyan mo respeto ang director mo ng isa, ibigay mo sa mga pastor dalawa or sa mga lingkod ng Panginoon. Double honor. Bakit? Kasi ang judgment ng Panginoon sa kanila double din in the future. Okay? Especially, sabi ni Paul, those who work hard at both preaching and teaching. They deserve to be paid well. Okay? So yan ang number one. Bakit tayo nagbibigay? This is only a review kasi napag-aralan na natin ito last time. And then number two, to support the needs of the church. Yan ang number two. Okay? It's very clear in the Bible, bakit nagbibigay sila. And then number three, to help the poor. To help the poor. Very, very clear ang Bible about this. At ito na nga ang context ng 2 Corinthians 8 and 9. This is not for the needs of the church. Tandaan natin, let's put in mind na ang 2 Corinthians 8 and 9 is not for the needs of the church. You read it again and again. Ang context is, it speaks about the need specifically for the church at Jerusalem. Bakit sila magbibigay? Hindi na may need ang Corinthian church. No. Because Corinthian church is very wealthy. Probably out of abundance. Kasi kung basahin mo ang Bible, in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, ano ang sabi ng Bible dyan? 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse number, I think 17. Okay? In 1 Corinthians 1:17, if I'm not mistaken, mga rich ang mga tao dito sa Corinth. Okay? In 1 Corinthians 26. Sabi ni Paul, remember, dear brothers and sisters, that few of you were wise, mga matatalino. Iba sa kanila. Probably may mga abogado, may mga doktor, may mga tao na magagaling in terms of wisdom of the world. Not only that, but powerful and wealthy. Some of them. Mga mayayaman at mga ma-influential na mga Christian sa loob ng church. Kaya, in terms of finances, the church at Corinth, masyadong mayaman. Dahil sa kanilang kayamanan, nag-push ito sa kanila to help. At ito na nga ang sinulat ni Paul sa kanila. Paano sila mag-help? Sabi ng Sunday School natin last time, in 1 Corinthians 16, they would collect this, every first day of the week. So yung collection na yun, hindi yun para sa church Let me remind you again. This collection for every first day of the week, this is not for the needs of the church in Corinth. No. This is, they are gathering it upon the first day of the week so that when Paul will come to visit them again on his third missionary journey, i-collect na lang ni Paul. Wala na silang amot-amot na mangyayari. Yan ang context. We go to the context first kasi hindi pwede na ma-out of context tayo dito. So again, the context is, it's all about these people in Corinth, they have this desire to help, but then again, they forgot this kind of help. That's why the Apostle Paul would remind them again in these two chapters to remember what they promised to give to the poor believers in Jerusalem. At why? Bakit naging poor ang Church of Jerusalem? Bakit poor sila? That's why in Acts chapter 2, if we read Acts chapter 2, because of this deep poverty na nangyayari, in Acts chapter 2, the believers, ang sabi dyan, they what? All the believers shared everything that they have. Not really everything, but their abundance. Sabi pa ni John MacArthur, hindi naman lahat. Kasi ang sabi ng verse number 46, they worship at the temple and in their homes. Kasi kung lahat, di wala na silang bahay, how can they worship at the temple and in their homes? But because marami sa kanila din doon, a lot of them are wealthy Christians, Jewish believers, so they sell it. They sell their possessions. It is very clear in chapter 4, verse number 32 of Acts. The believers were united in heart and mind, and they felt that what they owned was not their own. So they shared everything that they had. What kind of everything? Yung mga sobra. Okay? At ano yung mga sobra? And in verse number 33, the apostle testified powerfully to the resurrection of the Lord, and God's great blessing was upon them all. There were no needy people among them, because those who owned land or houses would sell them. So may mga sobra na mga lupa at mga houses, extra, they would sell them and bring the money to the apostles to give to those in need. Kasi nga may nangyayaring gutom in Judea, in Jerusalem, because of the gospel that is being what? That has really a great impact during the time. According to the book of Acts, 3,000, 5,000 souls were converted. At yung mga souls na hindi yung mga mayaman, those souls were poor. Poor from different parts of the world. We remember the Pentecost. The Pentecost. Iba-iba ng mga tao ang pumunta doon. Different kinds of people. May mga, when we go to the book of Acts, ano daw yung mga tao nandun na nag-attend ng Pentecost? Different kinds of people. Okay? If we look at the Bible, in verse number 9 of Acts chapter 2, here we are Parthians, Medes, Elamites, people from Mesopotamia, Judea, Cappadocia, Pontus, the province of Asia, Pergia, Pamphylia, Egypt, and the areas of Libya around Cyrene, visitors from Rome, different kinds of Jews around the world gathering during the Pentecost. At hindi yun sila mayayaman, they are so poor, na nung na-convert sila, wala na silang desire to go back to their country. They stayed sa Jerusalem Church. Kaya dumami hanggang wala nang ang pangangailangan ng church hindi na ma-met kasi dumami ang mga Christians. Nagets nyo? That is the context. Dumami, pangalawa, marami ding mga believers na pinersecute ng kanilang mga kapatid, mga kamag-anak kasi nag-Christian na sila, then they stayed again sa church. Nakita niyo kung gaano lumaki ang ministry doon? May mga believers na saved, and because they were saved, di ba natural sa atin na kung mag-iba tayo ng religion, i-persecute tayo? Naranasan niyo yon? No? Sa side ng nanay ko, in-outcast kami kasi nga naging baptist daw kami. Mapapunta na daw kami sa impyerno kasi ang sila lang daw yung mapalangit. So we are being outcasted. Yung nanay ko, hindi na pinapansin. So ito din ang nangyari sa Jerusalem. Maraming mga believers, Jewish believers, na in-outcast sila, so wala nang tulong pinansyal sa kanila. So saan sila pumunta? Sa church. Okay? So nakita natin yung poverty na nangyari sa Jerusalem. So kailangan ng tulong. tulong from the Gentile churches. Isa na dito ang Corinth. Okay? So ang Corinth nasa southern part of Greece at ang Macedonian churches nasa upper part of Greece sa north. Okay? So kung tingnan mo sa mapa, nasa taas yung Macedonia at ang mga churches na andoon, Philippi, Thessalonica at Berean Church, tatlo. Hindi yun mga mayayaman na church. Pero ang Corinth, dito sa baba, mayaman yun. Kaya nga sila yung nag-start ng gawain ng pagbibigay sa tulong doon sa Jerusalem kasi mayayaman sila. At because of that desire, na-challenge din ang mga Macedonian churches. Pero a year after, nakalimutan nila. Nakalimutan ng mga Corinthian ang promise nila to give to the poor saints of Jerusalem. Kaya itong 8 and 9, again, this is not for the finances of the church. I want to emphasize that para malaman natin ang context na hindi ito para sa needs sa church, para ito sa needs sa mga kapatiran sa Jerusalem. Okay? And they follow, at isa pa palang reason bakit may gutom doon sa tinatawag na Jerusalem or sa Judean part sa Judea because of the Roman economy. Romans were very cruel when they were extracting sa tinatawag na tax sa kanila. We know that from the story of the book of Luke. That's why hate nila ang mga tax collector because of how the Romans would extract sa mga taxes sa kanilang mga territories na na-occupy. At isa na doon ang Jerusalem, ang Judea. So there is a great famine na nangyari. Okay? But these Corinthian believers followed Deuteronomy 15:7-11. They follow it. Okay? Itong ma-remember natin, during the time, wala pa silang Bible sa New Testament. Puro lang lahat Old Testament. Right? Kasi hindi pa natapos ang New Testament. So they follow the teaching in Deuteronomy 15:7-11. And what is that? Ito yung utos ng Panginoon sa mga Israelites. Deuteronomy 15:7-11. Anong sabi dyan? If there are any poor Israelites in your towns, when you arrive in the land the Lord your God is giving you, do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted toward them. Kung may mga poor kayong mga kapatid na mga Israelites, huwag kang maging tight-fisted. Alam natin yung tight-fisted? Or hard-hearted. Instead, be generous and lend them whatever they need. Okay? Do not be mean-spirited and refuse someone alone because the year for canceling debts is close at hand. If you refuse to make the loan and the needy person cries out to the Lord, you will be considered guilty of sin. Okay? So kung may mga kapatid ka raw sa Panginoon na umuutang, pautangin mo. Huwag kang maging, huwag kang maging tight-fisted na wala kang pera. Pautangin mo. Yan ang sabi ng Bible, Sa mga Israelites, contextually speaking, we're talking about the Israelites. But we can also get principle. Yan parati ang ginagawa natin sa Bible. We go to the context and we get the principle. Okay? That's how we interpret the Bible. We get the principle of it. So the principle is, kung ilagay natin sa atin ngayon, we make it sure na may mga kapatid tayo sa Panginoon na ginugutom, tunutulungan natin. Okay? Ito din ang ginagawa ng mga Israelites noon. And this is the command of God to them. Na kung may mga kapatid ka sa Panginoon na nagugutom, don't be tight-fisted but share. Because if you refuse to make that, you are considered guilty of sin. Kung meron ka man, magbigay ka. And later, we will learn bakit ganon. Dito sa tinuturo ni Paul. So, finalo nila ito. I hope matapos ako ng early. Kasi napakahaba ng text na binasa ko kanina at mahaba din na yung pag-uusapan natin. This is only introduction. Okay? So for the past Sundays, we look at the character ng mga Corinthian believers as they gave ng mga Macedonian. Kasi nakalimutan nga nila ang promise nila. Diba? In 1 Corinthians 16, nag-promise sila kay Paul na magbigay. Pero a year after, nakalimutan. So again, the Apostle Paul reminded them. Di ba nag-promise kayo sa akin? Mabuti pa yung mga taga Macedonia, nag-start ng pagbibigay na. Bakit nakalimutan nyo? At ito yung pagbibigay nila, kahit na poor sila, yan ang sabi niya sa verse number 1. Now I want you to know in 2 Corinthians 8, dear brothers and sisters, what God in His kindness hath done through the churches in Macedonia. So God's grace moved them to give. So it is God's grace in our hearts kung tunay ka naligtas, yung nag-move sa iyo to give. Okay? Kaya ang tunay naman ng mga mananampalataya, if you are a true Christian, hindi ka dapat stingy. You give because of God's grace in your hearts. And that pushes us to give because of God's kindness, right? In our hearts. Sabi niya, even though they're being tested by many troubles, of course, poor din sila. Kasi yung Macedonia, yan yung place ni Alexander the Great, one of the greatest conqueror noong unang panahon sa Greek. Persecute ng mga Romans. Okay? So, dahil sa persecution, kinuha lahat ng mga doon, nagkahirap-hirap din ang lugar ng Macedonia. But in spite of their sabi ng Bible, they are being tested by many troubles, they are very poor, but ang sabi ng Bible, they are also filled with abundant joy, overflowed in rich generosity. Kahit mahirap sila because of, economically speaking, mahirap ang kanilang sitwasyon, but they give joyfully and enthusiastically. Yan ang sabi ng Bible sa atin. Overflowed with rich generosity. And not only that, they give sacrificially, joyfully, but voluntarily. That's why we remember na ang pagbibigay natin sa gawain ng Panginoon is voluntary. It is not being coerced or being forced. Okay? And it is very clear dito. The principle we can get, kung magbigay tayo sa simbahan. Kasi hindi ito para sa simbahan eh. Para ito sa saan? Again, ang context para nga saan? Hindi sa simbahan ha. Kasi nowhere in the New Testament, wala akong may nakita sa New Testament na utos kung paano tayo magbigay sa simbahan ng mga pangailangan sa simbahan. No, never. Wala. Zero. Yan ang sinasabi ko parati. Kaya itong chapters na ito, wag gamitin para sa needs ng church. Kasi in context, para ito sa needs ng mga poor saints sa Jerusalem. This is not for the needs of the church. Kasi nga, ang Corinthian church is very rich already. Mayaman na sila during the time. There is a huge budget sa loob ng church sa Corinth. Okay? Ewan ko kung ano ang ginagamit nila na formula in giving to the needs of the church. I don't know. Okay? I could just assume na ang turo sa kanila ni Pablo is ang turo sa Old Testament. Kasi si Pablo, kung basahin mo ang Bible, he followed all the commands in the New Testament, in the Old Testament. I can just assume. Okay? Because it is being, hindi sinabi ni Paul ang pagbibigay sa loob ng church. Okay? So they give sacrificially, joyfully, voluntarily, sa pangangailangan ng mga kapatid. Para ang nangyari ba? Para ang NCF nagutom. Ang BICF nagbigay sa NCF. Yan ang context. Nagets nyo? Hindi sila nagbigay sa church ha? Yun ang nangyari during this time. Contextually speaking, we are talking about context. It's very important when you interpret the Bible, the context. Para maintindihan natin. Not only they give voluntarily, but persistently. In verse number 4, they beg us. Wala pa akong nakita ng Christian na nag-beg sa pastor na magbigay. Sa loob ng church na, pastor, magbigay ako. Please, magbigay ako, pastor. Bago mo akong pigilan, please, magbigay ako. Wala pa akong nakita ng ganon. May nakita ka bang ganon na Christian? Pastor, magbigay ako, please, huwag mo akong pigilan. Please, ito na ako. Pastor, wag. Sabi niya, huwag mo akong pigilan. No, I've never seen a Christian like that na nag-beg sa pastor, nagluhod at magsabi na magbigay sa church. Wala pa. Because a lot of Christians are what? Tight-fisted in terms of giving. But look at the character of these people in Macedonia. They beg us again and again. Hindi na nagsabi si Paul na, hoy, may pangangailangan doon sa Jerusalem, magbigay kayo. Sila na mismo nagsabi na magbigay kami. Right? So they gave persistently. And why? Ginawa nila yan because in verse number 5, they are matured. They gave themselves to the Lord first. Yan ang sabi. They even did more than what we hoped. For their first action was to give themselves to the Lord and to us. Binigay nila ang kanilang sarili sa Panginoon. They dedicate themselves to the Lord. They are matured. And also not only to the Lord, but to the leaders of the church. That is very clear in the Bible. They are matured. Kaya nga ang giving, mga kapatid, para lang ito sa mga mature na mga Christians. Kung hindi ka pa mature, hindi ito para sa iyo. Tingnan mo mga bata. Ang bata, hindi yan siya magbibigay. Ang bata, puro lang gano'n lang. Meek, kung si Samba, in the morning, pag wake up niya, meek, ibig sabihin milk daw. Bigyan siya. Okay? Pero kung nag-grow ka na sa Panginoon, if you dedicate yourself to the Lord first, so tingnan mo action, grace ng Panginoon at dedication nila sa Panginoon. May grace sila sa Panginoon, but not only God's grace in their lives, but they dedicate, there is a dual responsibility sa Panginoon at sa iyo sa pagbibigay. Ganon din sa kaligtasan, di ba? Grace ng Panginoon at faith natin. Sa pagbibigay, ganon din. Grace ng Panginoon and we dedicate ourselves to the Lord so that we can give. There is no difference. Right? Yan ang sabi ng Bible. And that's how we interpret this. We get principles at i-apply natin sa ating buhay ng mga mananampalataya sa pagbibigay sa loob ng church. But of course, in the context, itong context na ito, pagbibigay nila sa mga kapatiran sa Jerusalem. Okay? And lastly, they gave as Jesus gave. This is the model of our giving. Jesus. Yan ang sabi niya sa verse number 9. Jesus, ang pinaka-model natin sa pagbibigay. You know the generous grace of our Lord? Though He was very rich, yet for your sakes, He became poor so that by His poverty, you might become rich. They gave as Jesus gave. And we do that. We gave as the Lord Jesus Christ gave. We sacrifice sa ating mga pangangailangan. Now we come to the last verses here na ating binasa kanina. In verse number 13 to 24. And the last point na sinabi din ni Paul sa kanilang pagbibigay, not only they gave sacrificially, joyfully, voluntarily, persistently, they gave themselves, they gave as Jesus gave, but they gave by faith. They gave by faith. Nagbigay sila sa tinatawag by a trustful heart in verse number 13. Okay? At anong sabi ng Bible sa atin dyan? Of course, I don't mean your giving should make life easy for others and hard for yourselves. Si Paul dito did not tell the Corinthian believers that the rich must become poor and the poor might become rich. This is not the teaching of the Apostle Paul to them. Hindi sila tinuturuan ni Paul na dahil may pangangailangan, magutang sila. No. Para maging mayaman ang mga mahirap. But sabi ni Paul sa kanila dito in verse number 13, I only mean that there should be some equality. And this is the word that is very striking to us. Okay? There should be an equality. Pastor, anong ibig sabihin ni Paul ng equality? Okay? Sinabi niya rin in verse number 14, that is what the meaning of the word equality in that verse. Ibig sabihin, right now you have plenty and you can help them, but later they will have plenty and can share with you when you need it. In this way, things will be equal. So, you are being blessed. Yan ang pinag-aralan natin last time kay Kuya sa Romans. Right? In the book of Romans. Naging blessing sa kanila ang mga Jewish people because of the Jewish people, they were being blessed spiritually. Kasi nanggaling sa Jewish people ang gospel. So they were being enriched spiritually. So, nireciprocate nila yung blessing spiritually in material blessing. Okay? So, this is what we call equality. Kasi later on, kayo din may mga pangailangan at sila din ang magbibigay sa inyo kung darating ang panahon na yon. Meaning to say, there is always equality sa tinatawag na pagbibigay. Ang ibig sabihin ni Paul, you don't hoard God's blessing. Kung may chance kayo na magbigay, now bigay kayo. Kasi later, kung kayo naman ang wala, sila naman ang magbibigay sa inyo. Yan ang tinatawag na equality. So kung meron ka, bigay. Okay? Kung anong meron ka, kung anong biniless sa'yo ng Panginoon, at binigyan niya ng illustration dito, He gives a wonderful illustration, the story of manna in the wilderness. Let's go to that story a little quick. In Exodus 16. Ano bang nangyari doon? Do you remember the story? A wonderful story, really, when I read this. Ang illustration. Kasi sabi niya, as the scriptures say in Exodus, those who gathered a lot had nothing left over. And those who gathered only little had enough. Now, let's look at the context. In Exodus 16. Ano bang nangyari? Ano bang nangyari, Pastor Jan? Now, we know from the story that the Lord commanded Moses. Andyan na sila in verse number in chapter 16 verse number 1. Okay? So they set out from Elim and journeyed into the wilderness of Sin between Elim and Mount Sinai. And they arrived there on the 15th day and the second month. So almost mga 2 months na silang lumabas from the land of Egypt. At of course, dahil nga nagutom sila, nagreklamo sila kay Moses. In verse number 2, the whole community of Israel complained about Moses and Aaron. Imagine how millions of people will complain to you. Sabi nila, sana hindi mo na lang kami dinala dito sa wilderness. Papatayin mo ba kami dito, Moses? Buti pa doon sa Egypt. In verse number 3. Okay? Hindi kami doon, kahit na mahirap doon, at least hindi kami mamatay sa gutom. In verse number 4, the Lord said to Moses, look, I'm going to rain down food from heaven for you. Okay? Huwag kang mag-alala, Moses, mapaulan ako ng manna. Okay? At sabi ng Panginoon, I will test them. Kita nyo? Ang manna is God's testing to His people. Tandaan natin parati. Saan natin makita ulit itong word na test? Doon sa Malakay, right? And test me now, prove me now, sabi ng Panginoon. Dito may testing din ng Panginoon sa kanila. Testingan ko nga itong mga Israelites kung gaano sila ka-obedient sa akin in terms of manna. Again, ang manna is God's testing to them. Anong utos ng Panginoon sa manna? Okay? Anong utos ng Panginoon? In verse number 9. Kasi ang preceding verses, ito na yung complaint nila sa kay Moses. Pero sabi ng Panginoon, don't worry, I will send manna para i-test ko sila. In verse number 5, on the 6th day, they will gather food, and when they prepare it, there will be twice as much as usual. Okay? Sabi ng Panginoon, magpaulan ako, pero pagdating ng 6th day, dapat ang i-gather nila double. Okay? Double. Kasi that is, pagka next day is Sabbath. So dapat hindi sila mag-gather. And then sabi ng verse number 7, in the morning you will set the glory of the Lord because He has heard your complaints, which are against Him, not against us. Meaning ang complaint ng mga Israelites is not against Moses, but it is against the Lord. Okay? That's why kung nagko-complain kayo kay pastor, na si pastor very harsh in terms of preaching, giving, or complaining against the Lord. That is the principle that we can get here. Okay? And in verse number 9, then Moses said to Aaron, announce this to the entire community of Israel. Present yourselves before the Lord. Again, dedicate, for He has heard your complaining. And as Aaron spoke, the whole community of Israel, they looked out toward the wilderness, and there they could see the awesome glory of the Lord in the cloud. Then the Lord said to Moses in verse number 11, I have heard the Israelites' complaints. Now tell them, in the evening you will have meat to eat, and in the morning you will have all the bread you want. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God. In that evening, vast numbers of quail flew, and it covered the camp. And the next morning, the area around the camp was wet with dew. When the dew evaporated, a flaky substance as fine as frost blanketed the ground. So in the evening, there's quail. In the morning, there's what? manna. Yan ang sabi ng Panginoon, huwag kayong mag-alala, I will provide food for you. Kasi mga kukomplain kayo. But don't worry, I will provide food. And then the Israelites were puzzled when they saw it. Sabi nila, ano ito? What is this? They asked each other. They had no idea what it was. The first time, ito yung pagkain sa langit. Sabi ng ibang mga pastor, ito yung pagkain sa langit kasi galing sa langit ito. I don't know. They make up stories, of course. And Moses told them, it is the food the Lord has given to you to eat. So this is the food of the Lord. These are the Lord's instruction. Ito na. Diba sabi ko, this is a testing. Anong instruction ng Panginoon in verse 16? Each household should gather as much as it needs. Sabi ng Panginoon, ang instruction niya, gather lang kayo sa mga pangangailangan nyo. Ilan ang i-gather nila? It is very clear. 2 quarts for each person in your tent. Meaning, ang 1 quart is 900 grams. So sobra 2 kilo ang i-gather nila per person. So 2 kilos of manna ang i-gather ninyo. Kada isang tao. Yan ang sabi ng Panginoon. In verse number 17, so the people of Israel did as they were told. Not all. Because according to the Bible, some gathered a lot. Tingnan mo yung tao. Yung tao talaga, no? Siguro pagkakita niya, mag-gather nga ako ng 4 na kilo. Kasi baka wala na ni bukas. Anong sabi ng Bible sa atin? Some gathered a lot, some only little. But when they measured it out, everyone had just enough. At ito na yung sinabi ni Paul, those who gathered a lot had nothing left over, and those who gathered only a little had enough. Diba? That is the principle, mga kapatid, sa blessing ng Panginoon sa atin. Akala mo, kung mag-hoard ka ng blessing mo, marami yan. Hindi. Kasi ang iba dito, nung nag-hoard ng blessing ng Panginoon ng marami, ganun pa rin sa mga nag-hoard, nagkuha ng konti. Equal. There is an equality. Right? Kaya kung ikaw na Christian, nag-hoard ka, hindi ka nagbibigay sa church, akala mo, sa pag-hoard mo, maging mayaman ka? No. The Lord will make it sure na yung mga hindi nagtatrabaho ay still pareha lang kayo ng kondisyon. Masaya din sila. Ikaw, grabing trabaho mo, kahit Sunday kukunin mo pa, trabaho ka kasi nag-hoard ka ng pera para sa sarili mo, but at the end of the day, ang sabi ng Panginoon, equal lang yan lahat. Equal lang yan lahat. Yan ang nangyari dito. Right? Sabi ng Panginoon, pick up ka lang ng pangailangan mo, huwag mo nang pasobrahan. Mga tao talaga, gusto talaga magpasobra. Okay? In verse number 19, then Moses told them, do not keep any of it until morning. Hindi sobra-sobra, anong sabi ng Bible? Kung sobra, hindi mo na maubos, right? But some of them didn't listen and kept some of it until morning. But by then it was full of maggots and had a terrible smell. So ang sobra na napanos. Ibig sabihin, kung nag-hoard ka ng blessing ng Panginoon, hindi mo yan sinishare, mapanos na siya. Mapanis yan. Pastor, anong pagkapanis? Magpunta yan sa sawala. Gets nyo? Lahat ng blessing ng Panginoon na hinuhoard mo sa buhay mo na akala mo ay enough para sa iyo, gawin ng Panginoon na mapanis yan. Kasi hindi ka nagbibigay sa Kanya. Gawain. Ang gusto ng Panginoon, equality. Magbigay ka. Kasi kahit nagbibigay ka at akala mo na wala ka na, then at the end of the day, you have enough. You will have enough. Yan ang promise ng Panginoon dito sa mga Jewish people. Ang nag-gather ng konti at ang nag-gather ng marami, at the end of the day, equal lang. Nag-guess niyo yung principle? Always. Kaya kung hindi ka nag-share sa Panginoon at hinuhoard mo yung blessing ng Panginoon, at the end of the day, patas lang kayo sa mga sweldo. Because sweldo mo pila, 40, ang sweldo niya 20. At the end of the day, patas lang. Mas masaya pa siya kaysa sa'yo kasi hindi siya nagtututor or ano mang ginagawa niya. See? Kasi makikita mo siya, doon siya parati sa kapihan, nagkakapi, walang tutor. Mas enjoy pa siya kaysa sa'yo na nag-hoard. Kasi akala mo siguro ang pag-hoard. At ito pa, actually daming principle na makuha natin dito sa story ng Manna. Okay? But some of them in verse number 20 didn't listen and kept some of it until morning. But by then it was full of maggots and had a terrible smell. Moses was very angry with them. Tigas talaga ng ulo ng mga tao ng Panginoon, no? Mga Israelites. At ngayon tayo din, tigas ng ulo natin. Tayo ang mga tao ng Panginoon ngayong panahon eh. We are the chosen people of God. In verse number 21, after this the people gathered the food morning by morning, each family according to its need. And as the sun became hot, the flakes they had picked up melted and disappeared. So nawawala lang din pala yung manna kung yung araw. It will shine, so all the manna would be gone. On the 6th day, they gathered twice. Ito yung utos ng Panginoon. So kung sa normal day, 2 kilo lang, pagka 6th day, dapat 4 kilo ang i-gather mo. Kasi nga, hindi ka pwede mag-gather kasi Sabbath day na. They gathered twice as much as usual, 4 quarts for each person instead of 2. Then all the leaders of the community came and asked Moses for an explanation. Bakit kami mag-gather ng double on the 6th day? In verse number 23, he told them, this is what the Lord commanded. Tomorrow will be a day of complete rest, a holy Sabbath. Kita nyo? Hindi sila patatrabahuin ng Panginoon kung Sabbath day, a complete day of rest. Anong principle na makuha natin? Huwag kang magtrabaho kung Sunday. Because that is for the Lord. Amen. Right? That is the principle that we can get here. We always get principle. But the context is for the Jewish people. But the principle is for us also. Na kung simba. Kasi the Lord will just provide all the needs. Na-provide na ng Panginoon ang needs mo for the whole month, pati Domingo, kukunin mo pa. Diba? Yan ang sabi dito. Sabi ng Panginoon, He told them, this is what the Lord commanded. Tomorrow will be a day of complete rest. Yan ang nasabi ni Kuya Bien, 1 in every 7. So ano man yung pinili mo, kung Friday ka man, Saturday, Sunday ka man, Monday ka man, basta 1 in every 7, wala tayong question dyan. Basta mag-rest ka. Pero sa ating mga Christians, we choose Sunday. Because that is where Christ resurrected from the dead. Saturday, pwede rin. Sa atin, walang problema yan. We don't follow na sabi ng iba, talagang Sabado lang talaga. Kasi kung hindi Sabado, hindi ka na maligtas. Sa atin, kahit ano, ligtas tayo. Kasi ang pagsamba is part of our thanksgiving to the Lord, not part sa ating kaligtasan, di ba? Simba ka man, hindi ka magsimba, sa'yo yan, ligtas ka pa rin. But we make it sure na kung Sunday or kung that day na nilaan mo sa Panginoon ay talagang hindi ka magtrabaho. Yan ang sinabi ng Panginoon sa kanila, oh. Okay? Tomorrow will be a day of complete rest, a holy Sabbath day set apart for the Lord. Sunday is the day set apart for the Lord. Set apart. Sindihan natin yung set apart, sanctification. Yun ang tinuturo sa atin sa Sunday school. We set apart for a specific purpose. A special purpose. Yan ang tinatawag na sanctification. We are being set apart by God for a specific purpose. And that purpose is to glorify Him. And the day that God is requiring them is the day of Sabbath. There will be no food on the ground that day. Some of the people went out anyway. Tingnan mo katigas ng ulo nila. Sabi ng Panginoon, huwag kayong lumabas. Pero sabi sa 27, iba talaga, try nga natin, baka meron. No? Some of the people went out on the 7th day, but they found no food. There is no food. Then the Lord asked Moses, how long will these people refuse to obey my commands and instruction? They must realize that the Sabbath is the Lord's gift to you. It is the Lord's gift to you. That is why He gives you a 2-day supply on the 6th day, so there will be enough for 2 days. So what is the principle na mag-get natin dito? Huwag kang mag-hoard, kasi kung mag-hoard ka, mapanis yan. Okay? Tama lang. Share ka. Diba? Share ka. Kung may share ka. At pangalawang principle na makita natin dito sa sinabi ni Paul, kung araw ng Panginoon ibigay mo sa Kanya. Tama? Huwag ka na magtrabaho, the Lord blesses you a lot. Okay? Nakita natin dito mga kapatid na ang equalizing ang Panginoong may gawa. God is doing sa tinatawag na equalizing. Akala mo lang yun, na kung magtrabaho ka at mag-hoard ka, marami ka. Akala mo lang yun. At the end of the day, dito sa story sa Manna, nag-hoard sila ng marami, pero anong nangyari na panis? At wala pa rin silang napala. Akala mo na kung mag-hoard ka, marami kang pera, akala mo lang yun. At the end of the day, God is the one doing the equalizing. God, He will give us satisfaction kung ano man ang ating ginagawa sa ating buhay. Okay? No matter how manna the Jews gathered each day, they had always what they needed. But those who hoard the manna discovered that it was impossible because the manna would decay and smell bad. Gathered what you have need, shared what you can. Share what you can. Pastor, tama ba yun ang sinasabi mo, share what you can? Yes. Sa text natin, balik na tayo sa 2 Corinthians chapter 8. Ang Panginoon hindi nagsasabi na share all you have. No. Share what you can. 2 Corinthians 8, dyan mismo sa text na binasa natin. 8 verse number 12. Anong sabi niya? Balik na tayo. Kasi baka sabihin nyo, grabe si Pastor, lahat ng pera ko kukunin niya. No, I'm not telling that. Even Paul is not telling that. 2 Corinthians 8 verse number 12. Anong sabi naman? Whatever you give is acceptable if you give it eagerly. And give according to what you have, not what you don't have. Clear naman ang Bible, di ba? Give according to what you have. And not what you have. Kung wala ka, paano ka magbigay? Simple logic lang naman yan, di ba? Magbigay ka kung ano ang may meron ka. Okay? So gather what you need. Gather what you need. Yung tama lang. Share what you can and don't try to hoard God's blessing. And God will see to it that God will see to it that you will not be in need if you trust Him. This is actually ang tinatawag na pag-gather nila doon is a testing to them kung gaano sila nag-trust sa Panginoon. It is a testing of our trust to Him. Tama? Ang sinasabi ni Paul sa mga taga-Corinthians, tingnan nyo nga ang mga Macedonian believers. Okay? Ang pagbibigay nyo sa ngayon is makakatulong yan sa mga kapatiran sa Jerusalem. At maybe later on, sila naman ang tutulong sa iyo kasi yun ang plano ng Panginoon. Okay? And when we do that, and when we trust in that kind of system na binibigay ng Panginoon, He will continue to provide our needs. Right? It is a matter of faith sa Panginoon. It is a matter of faith. Kaya nga, ang Malakay 3:10 is also a great principle. Para sa akin, kiniklaim ko yun. And prove me now, said the Lord of hosts. Kailan ba na time na prove mong Panginoon? There is no such thing in the Bible na i-prove mong Panginoon. Even sa New Testament, sabi nga ng Panginoon kay Satan, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Huwag mong i-tempt ang Panginoon. Pero dito sa Malakay 3:10, this is the only time na sinabi ng Panginoon, i-prove mo nga ako. And when was the last time na prove mo ang Panginoon sa pagbibigay? Na Lord, Lord, ang nakuha ko sa aking sweldo, ito lang Panginoon. Kagaya ni Mrs. Ang nakuha niya is 20% ng sasahod niya. Sabi ko, ibigay mo yung malaki sa Panginoon? It is a matter of faith and trust mo sa Panginoon. Yun na nga ang bigay ng illustration ni Kuya Ben dati. No? Kasi mahirap ito sa Pilipinas eh. So nag-earn ka ng ganito, tapos nakuha mo lang ng ganito. Ano bang ibigay mo? Yun or ito? And that is a matter of trust sa Panginoon. Trust. Ang ibigay mo ba yung dating pinagkasunduan nyo ng Panginoon na ito yung salary ko Panginoon, 40,000. At dyan ako kukuha ng mga bagay na ibigay ko sa iyo. Or dito. Kasi pag 40,000 pero nang binigay sa'yo, 20 lang eh. So dito ka kukuha sa 20. It's up to you. It's a matter of faith and trust sa Panginoon. Gaano mo ba pinuprove ang Panginoon sa buhay mo? That Lord, I will give this because I will try na magbigay. At many times sa buhay ko personally, trinay ko ang Panginoon at hindi pa nag-fail ang Panginoon sa akin. Never! Kasi tinest ko siya in the area of giving. Kailan ba na time na tinest natin ang Panginoon? Baka tinest natin ang Panginoon sa ating mga test ko ang Panginoon sa trabaho. Dito sa Bible, ang Panginoon is asking us to test Him in the area of giving. If I will not open to you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, na wala ka nang mapagtaguan ng mga blessing na yan. Si Paul nagamit din ng illustration sa ano, no? Nagtaka nga ako when I studied this, kala ko si Paul hindi nagagamit ng illustration sa Old Testament. He's using the illustration of the people in the wilderness. And he's applying it to the believers doon sa Corinth. And we could do the same sa atin dito. Kasi sabi ko naman sa inyo kanina, wala mang clear instruction ng Bible kung paano magbigay sa loob ng church. Wala. Zero. Itong 2 Corinthians 8 and 9, sa pagbibigay ito sa kapatiran sa Jerusalem, hindi ito sa church. Huwag natin gamitin ito sa church. We can get some principles on how to give, but the context would tell us that this is for the church sa pangangailangan sa Jerusalem. This is not for the needs of the church at Corinth during the time. But the principle of giving is very clear para sa ating lahat. That when we do this, the Lord will continue to bless us. May time pa ba ako? May time pa man ako. Kasi the remaining text here that the Apostle Paul would remind us is all about because we're talking about giving. Grace giving is not foolish giving. Okay? Ang grace giving, although na we give by grace, but this is not foolish giving. We handle the money of the Lord very carefully. Okay? At yung contribution nila na binigay must be done in honestly, decently, and in order. That's why we can see here sa mga tao na ibinigay ni Apostle Paul na mga mapagkakatiwalaan din. They possess the following qualifications in handling God's money. Ito na yung remaining mga verses na binasa natin. The qualification of those people that are handling money of God. Kasi ang money na ibinibigay natin sa Panginoon, sa Kanya yon. So what are the following qualifications if one would desire to handle God's money? Number 1, God-given desire to serve. In verse number 16 and 17. Okay? But thank God, He has given Titus the same enthusiasm for you that I have. Hindi pinili ni Paul si Titus. Titus offered himself. He has that desire to serve, to keep the money. Okay? To assist the gathering of the offering. Okay? So ang qualification pala ng number 1 dito, those who are keeping the money. Kasi sa atin naman, dapat talagang tama ang in and out ng pera. Kasi biblical naman yan eh. Si Paul is very careful to select people that right qualification. Sabi niya, I thank God He has given Titus. Titus is bringing the letter, this letter, 2 Corinthians, to them. At the same time, Titus is waiting to collect the money na prinamis nila. But Titus has that desire to do that. Hindi siya pinilit ni Paul, but he has the desire to serve para ibigay ang pera sa mga kapatiran sa Jerusalem. To give the money to the needy saints of Jerusalem. So ang number 1 pala na qualification sa loob ng church, if you are handling God's money, you have that desire to serve the Lord. Marami ng mga stories sa Pilipinas na tao na hawak ng pera ng church ay na gasto niya sa iba. May nangyari doon sa amin, doon mismo sa church ng tatay ko. Yung na-elect na treasurer, ay nagtaka kami na hindi niya na ibinibigay ang pera sa church. Yung pala, ginamit niya sa business niya. Nawala. Hindi rin siya nakita sa loob ng church kasi nahiya na siya. Kasi ginamit niyang pera sa business niya. So this is the first qualification. God-given desire to serve. Titus welcomed our request that he visit you again. In fact, he himself was very eager to go and see you. This is very clear. He has that desire. He is very eager. Okay? He has that enthusiasm. Aganda ng ginamit ng New Living Translation. Kaya ginagamit ko ang NLT. Kasi it's very clear. He has that enthusiasm. He has that eagerness to go there and see you. And to collect sa prenamis niyo sa akin para sa tulong sa mga kapatiran sa Jerusalem. Number 2, anong qualification na sinabi ni Paul? He is an evangelist. He has the burden for the lost. Verse number 18. We are also sending another brother. So si Titus at itong brother na ito, walang pangalan. Lagayan natin pa si Brother Christian. Okay, para may pangalan. Si Titus, si Brother Christian. Ano si Brother Christian daw? Okay? All the churches praised him because he is what? A preacher of good news. Kaya dapat pala ang nag-handle ng money ng Panginoon may burden sa mga kaluluwa. Praise the Lord. Ang ating mission treasurer dito ay bata ng pastor at missionary pa. Si Pearl. You have the burden for the lost. Okay? Kasi kung wala kang burden sa lost, nahirap. Sabi ng pastor, may tulungan tayo doon na may mga ganon sa Pilipinas, mga treasurer na tight-fisted na halos hindi palabas ang pera. Sabi ng pastor na may pangailangan doon sa ministry sa doon, wag lang muna pastor kasi wala tayong budget. Because he doesn't have burden for the lost. Okay? Pangalawang qualification, not only you have the desire to serve God, but you have the burden to the lost. Ito yung pangalawang brother na ito. Okay? A preacher of good news. And then, not only that, number 3, he has that desire to honor God. In verse number 19, he was appointed by the churches to accompany us as we take the offering to Jerusalem, a service that glorifies the Lord and shows our eagerness to help. He has the desire to honor God. Because that service, that money, na kanyang, lahat naman ng pera sa simbahan ay para naman sa kaluwalhatian ng Panginoon, di ba? Hindi naman yan ginagamit para lang sa, sa mga walang kabuluhan. All the money na binibigay natin is for the glory of God. That's why you need to have the desire also to glory and to honor, to glorify the Lord. And number 4, a reputation for honesty. In verse number 20 to 22. We are traveling together to guard against any criticism. That's why I don't believe in pastor treasurer. No? Kasi kahit si Paul is very, very, careful to guard against any criticism for the way we are handling this generous gift. We are careful to be honorable before the Lord, but we also want everyone else to see that we are honorable. May mga pastor, ako na yung pinaka-mature dito, kaya ako dapat mag-handle ng money. Yun ang mga ibang mga sistema sa ibang churches. Wala nang ibang mature pa sa loob ng church, di pastor, but the Apostle Paul is very careful not to do that. Okay? Although that we are careful to be honorable before the Lord, he can say na, nakita naman ang Panginoon ng heart ko, okay naman ako, hindi naman ako nandadaya. Pero sabi niya, nonetheless, but we also want everyone to see that we are honorable. Okay? Kasi okay man yan na magsabi ka na nakita ng Panginoon ng sarili ang puso mo. But dapat din makita din ng ibang tao na okay ka din saan paghandle ng pera. Right? Kasi minsan natitempt tayo eh. Okay? So there is a reputation for honesty. That's why may mga auditing na nangyayari to avoid any blame. And this is what we do sa church, tama? Dito sa BICF. Ginagawa natin. We follow this. Para walang sisihan. May mga in and outs dito na nire-report ang ating treasurer. Walang lukuhan. Hindi tayo mga tao dito na niloloko lang yung sarili natin na nagbibigay tayo sa wala. No, we do this because we want a reputation, and that is very, very biblical dito sa Bible. We follow the principle. Even the Apostle Paul, ang sinasabi niya. At number 5, itong mga taong ito na nag-handle ng pera ng Panginoon, they have the spirit or the attitude of cooperative spirit. In verse number 21. Okay? In verse number 22. We are also sending with them another of our brothers, who has proven himself many times and has shown on many occasions how eager he is. He is even more enthusiastic because of his great confidence in you. Okay? If anyone asks about Titus, say that he is my partner, who works with me to help you. Si Titus, hindi lamang siya brother na may puso sa ministry ng Panginoon, but he know how to be a what? A partner. Okay? Kaya dapat ang nag-handle ng money has that good partnership sa mga lingkod ng Panginoon sa ministry. Maraming mga treasurer doon sa Pilipinas na hindi sila team partner sa kanilang mga pastors. Kaya nahihirapan minsan ng mga pastor, no? May project tayo, sabi ng pastor, walang pera. Walang partnership, walang teamwork. Minsan ang mga pastor na nalulungkot na may ministry sana tayo na i-open, kaso itong ating kasama na nag-handle ng money, walang tinatawag na heart, na partnership. Kasi si Titus, ano daw si Titus? Sabi ni Paul, if anyone asks about Titus, kung may mag-ask about kay Titus, say that he is my partner who works with me to help you. Meaning to say, itong Titus na ito, kung treasurer man siya, I don't know kung treasurer siya, but he is a partner to the Apostle Paul. Easy lang siya. Pag sabi ni Paul, may pangangailangan tayo dito, si Titus, open agad. Because he is a partner. He is a team sa kay Apostle Paul. Okay? And the last one dito, makikita natin is yung tinatawag na honesty na ipinapakita nila dito. Okay? And the brothers with him have been sent by churches, and they bring honor to Christ. So show them your love and prove to all the churches that are boasting about you is justified. Ang mga brothers na ito, si Titus, ang dalawang brother, have been sent by churches. Ang paghandle pala ng money ng Panginoon, you are just a messenger of God. You are just there because you are being entrusted by God sa posisyon na yan. Yan ang sabi ng Bible dito sa mga partner ni Paul. Okay? He is, a partner who works, and these brothers, and the brothers with him have been sent. It is the same word sa Greek word as a messenger, an apostle, apostolos, by the churches. So you are there inside the church as a messenger to keep the money of God, to bring glory and honor to Him. And if that is your concept, sabi ng Bible, they bring honor to Christ. If you remember na ikaw pala ay stewards, messenger, na andyan na inilagay ng Panginoon, then it is automatically that you will bring honor to Christ. You will bring honor to Christ. So napakaganda, no? Itong 2 Corinthians chapter 8, napakaganda nitong chapter na ito. Itong binasa natin, this is in verse number 16 to 24 are the qualifications of those who are handling the money sa loob sa ministry ni Jesus. At pasalamat tayo dito sa BICF na meron tayong mga kapatiran na inilagay ng Panginoon. And maybe later, sooner or later, kasi hindi naman natin alam kung sino na naman gagamitin ng Panginoon dito na mag-handle ng money. Please remind yourself sa itong principle na ibinigay ni Paul sa atin. As we handle the money of God, it's very important. Okay? Kasi ang grace giving is not foolish giving. We don't just give and give and give and give Na, sige, nagbigay naman ako dyan, hayaan mo na dyan. No, we don't do that. We make it sure na ang money ng Panginoon ay natatago sa tama. At ang natatago niyan ay talagang my desire to serve the Lord. So ang grace giving pala mga kapatid is an exciting adventure. When you learn to give by grace through faith, pareha din sa ating kaligtasan, no? By grace through faith din. Walang pagkakaiba. Kaya nga sabi ko kay Mrs. last time, ang pinakamataas na level na maipahayag natin sa ating pagkakristyano ay ang pagbibigay. That is the highest level of being a Christian na magawa mo sa loob ng gawain ng Panginoon. Pwede ka lang makaserve sa loob ng simbahan, pero ang pagbibigay napakahirap yan. That's why yan ang pinakamataas. And when you found the secret of giving, it is like an adventure. Okay? And we give by grace through faith. And when we do that, we experience a wonderful liberation from things and circumstances. Na kahit gaano pa kahirap, we continue to give. Because hindi tayo kinokontrol ng money, but we control the money. And we set our values and priorities right. May the Lord bless this sa ating mga puso. At kung ikaw stingy sa pagbibigay, baka wala pa ang grace ng Panginoon sa puso mo. This is a challenge for you today. Pastor, ako mahirap talaga ang pagbibigay. Baka wala ka pa, hindi ka pa na-save. It's time for you to check yourself and ask the Lord, Lord, do I have your grace in my heart? Kung wala pa, tanggapin mo si Jesus sa buhay mo. The moment that you will accept Him, He will give you grace so that you can give cheerfully sa gawain ng Panginoon. Father in heaven, Lord, we thank you for your word today. We thank you that we finished 1 Corinthians